why Vanguard is better than World at War. In my opinion, World at War is better. It's always been my favorite COD game. But recently, people have been saying how Vanguard is trash and World at War was better when half the time they're basically undecided. Back in the model for 2 days, people were always saying how World at War sucks. Treyarch is making Black Ops, so it's probably gonna suck like COD 5. World at War is trash. Why the fuck are they releasing a World War II shooter? COD 4 is better. Save your money. This one is stupid and unrealistic. Zombies is the only fun thing, but it ain't worth the $60. What happened? I thought World at War sucks. Why is that everyone thinks World at War is the best COD game ever? They're living on nostalgia. That's why. I remember watching machinima videos and the commentators were always saying how World at War was stupid and that Treyarch was garbage for making that game. But apparently, in 2022, all these videos are coming out, and these people don't even know that 14 years ago, everyone hated World at War. I always loved the game because I've always been a World War II nerd, but I'm pretty sure everyone is hating Vanguard because everyone is doing that. And that's the cool thing to do apparently. In Vanguard, one of the Japanese soldiers asked, "Do you speak Japanese?"
Do you speak Japanese?
And everyone is making fun of this. Why? It has nothing to do with people getting offended or whatever. You're apparently a special forces soldier that gets captured. Obviously, they'll ask if you speak Japanese so they can interrogate you. During World War II, I bet many Japanese soldiers were taught how to speak that one phrase because 1, they would want information from the POW, and 2, they know that some Americans deploying to the Pacific Theater would be able to speak some Japanese. It was similar with Americans deploying to the European theater. This is how soldiers would interrogate their enemies if there was a language barrier. So I'm not mad about that. I think Sledgehammer Games did an amazing job with that in Vanguard. What I really hated though is that they were lazy and made the 4 main characters all come from different countries: America, Britain, USSR, and Australia, instead of making different stories for people that don't even know each other. In World at War, there were 2 different stories: in the European theater as Private Dimitri, and in the Pacific theater as Private First Class Miller. They didn't know each other, and the story focused on the closing days of World War II from both sides, the United States and the Soviet Union. In Vanguard, all the characters are apparently special forces, and in the first mission, they discuss how they don't know what they're doing there. 4 special forces people from 4 different nations don't know what the mission is. Fantastic storytelling there, Sledgehammer Games, outstanding. But Vanguard did a lot of great things in the campaign that kept me hooked, and it's a bummer that not a lot of people appreciate this. In one of the missions where you play as Polina Petrova, which used to be my video game crush when I first played the game, but call me a loser I guess, I don't know. Which is a female sniper of the USSR. You're in your hometown Stalingrad with your father and fucking Neil ends over here. When you go outside to help your comrades or whatever, you notice that all the birds fly away, and a few seconds later you hear the powerful Luftwaffe with their Junkers Ju-87 Stuka dive bombers approaching Stalingrad. This shit had me on the edge of my seat. This game wasn't scared to show how powerful Nazi Germany was. It literally showed you what it was like to experience Blitzkrieg. The Air Force bombing you and then the army coming in and imprisoning you and killing your people. I absolutely love this mission and it captured a feeling you do not feel in World at War. Now to be honest, I didn't have a problem with the Soviet main character being a female, as the USSR did have a lot of female snipers, so it was historically accurate. But Sledgehammer Games put her in the game because someone would get offended. No doubt in my mind, someone would get offended. What I don't understand is, in 1942, she was a private, but then in 1943, she was a lieutenant. If you understand army ranks, please explain how you go from enlisted to officer in a year. I know it's World War II, but still, 1 year? Really? I also loved how in the first mission, you're captured by the Waffen SS. Well, 1 Waffen SS and 2 Wehrmacht personnel, which I never understood because this takes place in 1945. In 1945, the Wehrmacht hated the SS. In fact, the Wehrmacht helped the Americans fight the SS in 1945. The battle for Itter Castle. Also, he's wearing a black uniform. Contrary to Hollywood films, the black uniform started being phased out in 1938. It was publicly last used in 1940 after the fall of France. In 1942, Heinrich Himmler, who was the Reichsführer of the SS, permanently phased the black uniforms out. So how is he wearing a black uniform in 1945? And how is he leading Wehrmacht soldiers in 1945? Also, he's wearing the red armband. In case you guys didn't know, the SS wore these with the black uniforms and the ceremonial uniforms. The problem is, those were also phased out in 1939 and they were replaced by the Reichsadler. Also, he's wearing enlisted insignia, but his visor cap shows that he's an officer. What the hell? So the uniform is not historically accurate. Surprise, surprise. But it does distract from the intensity of the scene. I mean, he called the black guy the N-word. I'm not a racist, but I love how they displayed the SS to not be afraid of being racist. This was also the first time ever that Call of Duty implemented the Totenkopf. That is the death's head insignia all SS personnel wore on their caps. World at War didn't have that, believe it or not. They showed Wehrmacht insignia, which wasn't historically accurate for the SS. In Vanguard, we see Reich Main Security, which I believe is supposed to be the Reich Security main office, which was a real thing. They were above the Allgemeine SS, the Gestapo, and the Einsatzgruppen. And we also see a Nazi called Richter. His uniform was a little more accurate considering this was 1945. He has the Reichsadler instead of the armband, and his sleeve has SD on it. In case you didn't know what that means, all personnel of the Reich Security wore the SD patch on their sleeves. It meant security service, but since he was in the SD, he should not be wearing the SS collar tab. SS personnel had a blank collar tab in that place, not an SS one. So this uniform is almost accurate, but I don't understand why Freisinger is commanding him. Freisinger is the Nazi with the black uniform. That's not historically accurate for the time being. Furthermore, Freisinger is an Untersturmführer according to his rank, which is a second lieutenant. Richter is a Hauptsturmführer, which is a captain of the RSHO. So how is a second lieutenant of the Waffen SS gonna give commands to a captain of the Reich Security head office? Richter clearly outranks him in every way, so I never understood that. Also, Freisinger was possibly in the Allgemeine SS because they also wore black uniforms, which were phased out in 1938. And I'm thinking Allgemeine SS because he's in the Gestapo headquarters in the game. I don't see why Waffen SS would be there. And also in World at War, all the Nazi zombies had Allgemein written on their cuff bands, which never existed in real life. But in World at War, Treyarch probably googled black Nazi uniforms and saw that the Allgemeine SS wore them. So they put Allgemein on the cuff bands, which in 2021, Sledgehammer Games tried to do the same thing. But the problem is, the Allgemeine SS had their own designated collar tabs since they fell under the RSHO and not the Waffen SS. So if Freisinger is supposed to be in the Allgemeine SS, then he shouldn't be wearing the SS collar tab. Also, Freisinger announced himself as the new Führer in this game after Hitler killed himself.
What is going on?
Hitler is dead.
What? How? Was it the Allies?
Reports indicate he took his own life.
He stated that reports said Hitler killed himself. But in real life, there were no reports. Many people were told Hitler died fighting for Germany. So how did a second lieutenant find out that Hitler killed himself while the Soviets were already in Berlin, and then he's the new Führer? In real life, the person who took Hitler's place was Karl Donitz, not Freisinger, and that's because Adolf Hitler personally announced him as the new Führer before he killed himself. And yes, Project Phoenix was sort of real, but it was an idea by Arthur Axmann, who was the Führer of the Hitler Youth. And he came up with the idea of creating the Fourth Reich with the Hitler Youth. So Vanguard is taking place during World War II, but it is not historically accurate at all. So 4 Special Forces soldiers from 4 different nations getting information on Operation Phoenix or whatever is completely unrealistic and never happened in real life. Aside from the very inaccurate uniforms and history in this game, I kinda enjoy Vanguard's campaign. I know a lot of people are making fun of it, but in this game we see the Roman salute, and they even say "Hi Hitler." Remember COD World War II? That stupid disgrace of a World War II game? That is by far the most inaccurate and dumbest Call of Duty game ever, and Vanguard is definitely better than it. The campaign was great. It made me feel like I was part of the story. I was on the edge of my seat when I was playing it. Definitely better than recent COD games. And no, in my opinion, it's not better than World at War, but I'm tired of people coming out of the closet and saying World at War is the best game ever. No, you're an idiot. You're talking about nostalgia, not the game itself. And yes, World at War has its dumbest moments. The game wasn't perfect, the uniforms weren't all accurate, but I do give them credit for trying. This is a ceremonial uniform that was permanently phased out in 1942, but for some reason the Nazis wore it in 1945 in this game. This game is the best game that described the horrors of World War II, how humankind used weapons of pain and suffering against each other. This doesn't even happen in today's world. Here's what happens when getting shot by a shotgun close range. What happened to Germans who surrendered to the Soviets? What happens when getting sprayed by the goddamn MG42? The game is truly dark and it's a masterpiece. The soundtrack, the blood and gore, everything about this game is dark, and that's what it teaches us about World War II. Another great thing about this game is weapons. Treyarch purchased licenses to use certain types of weapons in this game. Mosin-Nagant, M1919 Browning, Colt, M1911, M1897 Trench Gun, Walther P38, DP28. These guns gave us history lessons on their nomenclatures and made you feel part of the battle. In Vanguard, well, Sledgehammer Games wanted to save money, so instead of purchasing the license like Treyarch did back in 2008, they did it the cheap way and legal way by making up gun names. They eat your burst, which is the Beretta PG in real life. 3-line rifle, which is the Mosin-Nagant. NZ41, which is the CAW from New Zealand. Combat shotgun. Fucking pathetic, which is the M1897 trench gun. Machine pistol, which is the Mauser C96. Should I go on, or are we clear that Sledgehammer Games didn't want to buy their licenses? So it doesn't matter for some people, but it matters to me. But not to solely bash on Vanguard. Vanguard is the best COD World War II game since World at War, and it's better than Modern Sweatfare 2019 and Infinite Warfare. While yes, the multiplayer is full of sweaty players that make the game unplayable, the campaign is what matters. Zombies suck in Vanguard. Honestly, Nazi zombies died after Black Ops 1. World at War had the best Nazi zombies. Today, Nazi zombies is about completing quests and fighting giant zombies. It's not fun at all. But Sledgehammer Games has my respect for making a great campaign and wasn't scared of censoring historical things. Leo Steiner is one of the bad guys in Vanguard that was in the SS. Remember General Amsel? Well, his uniform showed us that he was in the Wehrmacht. While yes, the Wehrmacht was guilty of war crimes, I'd say the SS was scarier and much more fanatical. Now, I don't understand why they didn't give Steiner the Totenkopf, considering he is in the SS and should have it on his visor cap. Other than that, his uniform was fairly accurate. His uniform wasn't black and he had the correct collar tabs. As you can see, his rank was Obersturmgruppenführer. And at that high-ass rank, you don't wear the SS collar tab, you wear both rank tabs because you're a high-ranking badass. The rank was equivalent to General, which is similar with World at War's General Amsel, except Steiner is much more scarier. I mean, he was an SS general in charge of capturing Stalingrad. He is way above General Amsel, just saying. Steiner's guards, however, were not accurate. They were disappointing. This uniform is not accurate at all. The Nazis were ordered to maintain a professional appearance at all times. I mean, Hugo Boss manufactured their uniforms. So did Coco Chanel, Adidas, and Puma, but that's a story for another time. So the Wehrmacht and SS did not tolerate a messy appearance, and they most certainly were not allowed to wear whatever the hell this is on the helmets. Sure, they look badass, but this was not allowed in real life. Also, MP40 submachine guns were only issued to NCOs and officers, and since the Wehrmacht and SS only had 1 to 2 NCOs per squad, then it makes no sense for all these guys to have MP40s. Sure, it's possible that they're all officers and stuff, but that would make zero sense. In a squad, you need soldiers. You can't have a squad with only high-ranking personnel. The Nazis knew this and weren't stupid, so this whole setup would never happen. And no, Steiner would never have a whole squad of bodyguards made up of high-ranking soldiers. Adolf Hitler, whose bodyguard division was the Leibstandarte SS, was made up of different kinds of ranks, not just high-ranking personnel, so that makes zero sense. In World at War, all the SS had the same rank, which was Schutz, which was equivalent to Private, the lowest rank ever. Privates had a blind collar tab in place of the rank, so it sucks that Treyarch didn't really focus on a small detail, but it's still fun. And think about it, Sledgehammer Games released Vanguard in 2021, and in this game we saw historically accurate Nazi insignia. It was the first time we've seen the Totenkopf in a Call of Duty game. The previous World War II game that they released was COD World War II, and boy, that game was a disaster. No historical research went into that game at all. While yes, there were blacks who fought for Nazi Germany, it was on a small scale, and there's no doubt in my mind that Sledgehammer Games only did this to not upset anyone. So compared to COD World War II, Vanguard is a fucking excellent game. Hate it if you want, I don't care. Everyone was hating World at War back then. Hell, even when Modern Warfare 2 came out, I remember this specifically, when Modern Warfare 2 came out, people were saying the game sucked and that COD 4 was better. Look at Modern Warfare 2 now. Everyone loves it. I'm telling you, COD fans are undecided voters. I was pretty undecided too. When Black Ops 1 came out, I hated the game so much. I kinda hate it today, but I'm mostly just living on nostalgia pretty much. Vanguard doesn't show the brutality of World War II like World at War does, but it sure as hell tells a good story and keeps you wanting to know what happens next. While the multiplayer is a sweat show, the campaign is worth it. I cannot emphasize this more. Sledgehammer Games, you made a fantastic World War II shooter. Please make a better multiplayer. The same type of engine as in the classic COD games, because I can't play with people sliding on the ground and shooting in 0.5 seconds hoping they can attract a mate or something. And also, why do we have this COD announcer?
The lead's ours! Hold on
Double kill!
New intel, ready for report!
Triple kill! Fury kill!
This was the World at War Wehrmacht announcer.
Artillery acquired! Artillery is in position!
The man was badass, and this was the victory theme in World at War. In case you're wondering, that's Hitler making a speech about Germany now and forever or something like that, played over a German anthem. Imagine if this was COD today. You get to hear one of Hitler's speeches after beating the Red Army in multiplayer. This game was awesome. And here is perhaps my favorite thing in World at War, dedicated to the veterans of World War II who sacrificed their lives for the preservation of liberty. And people wonder why seeing hackers fly around in it always pisses me off. The credits were just perfect, and COD games nowadays are just money pits instead of works of art like they used to be. So to conclude this video, I do want to say that World at War in my opinion is better, and you may feel the same way, except if you're living on nostalgia, then you're definitely just jumping on the bandwagon, I'm sorry. And I'm not solely picking on you, because I'm one of those undecided COD fanboys who is undecided about Black Ops 1 from 2011 or 2010, whenever that game came out. Anyway, that is pretty much it for me today. I thank you so much for stopping by, and I hope you enjoyed your stay. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I am out. Goodbye.